I'd like to thank you so much for your comments and feedbacks on my last two videos. As you have been watching me so far, I believe that you're serious in quickly overcoming your language barrier to be able to hear, understand, and speak, or even present in English. If you're like some friends of mine, you may have your own unique talents. You may have your dreams and wishes. You may want to join the global community to work anywhere you want, to become a businessman or businesswoman, going around the world, working with partners coming from many other countries. But you and I have the same disadvantage of living in a non-English speaking country. Some years ago, when I was struggling with my English, I used to ask myself, why is it English? Why isn't it Vietnamese? I'm not sure if you ever had the same thought, but that damn language is holding you back, right? Sorry I'm using bad word here, but it is holding you back from showing your real capability to the world. Now I want to tell you that it is not very hard to learn to speak a new language if you know to do it the right way. That's why I'm here to share with you some of my best knowledge and experience, the knowledge that I usually teach in my private coaching class only. But the reason why I created this video series and share with you for free is because I don't organize such program very often, and I have to do many other consulting works. And I understand that not everybody can afford to spend more than $100 to attend my class, my 3 or 4 session program. So I created this video hoping that it will help you achieve your goal. In the last video, we have talked about the core vocabulary, and we have learned that it determines whether or not you will quickly achieve your learning target. And today, I'm going to share with you a technique that will help you quickly access to the core vocabulary. It will help you retain those words in a longer period of time, and more importantly, it will help you learn in a more comfortable way. In the first part of the video, I'm going to explain how and why you remember or forget a certain word. What is the mechanism here? And I'm going to tell you the big mistake in learning vocabulary that many language learners make. Then in the next part of the video, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to give you a step-by-step instruction for you to practice my technique. Don't worry, even though it took me almost 4 years to figure it out, but it won't take you more than 4 minutes to understand it. Once I tell you how, it's going to be super easy to follow. So are you ready? Let's start. Have you ever asked yourself why sometimes you could retain a piece of information for quite long the first time you heard or saw it, but when you learn language, when you learn English, sometimes you couldn't remember a certain word, even though it was not the first time you learned it. Even though it was not the first time you learned it, and the common case here could be you see some word which is familiar, but you can't remember its meaning. It happens all the time, right? You can't remember its meaning. Let me tell you why. Your brain will easily remember things that it can associate. In his book Second Nature, Human Brain Science and Human Knowledge, the Nobel Prize-winning author Gerald Alderman reveals a lot of interesting findings about human brain. He found that our brain cells function by a mechanism that he called recognition and association. Because of association mechanism, you can easily remember a piece of information that had something to do with your existing data in your brain. In other words, the information that can relate to your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, your desires. It will be very hard for you to remember a piece of information that has nothing to do with you. For example, if I tell you my name, you will remember it for quite long because my name relates to your desire of learning English, so that your brain can link that name to other information already exist in your mind. Like you have watching me talking in my videos, or you want to speak English fluently and maybe I can help you, and things like that. But if I tell you a name without letting you know who he or she is, you forget it in a few days. Secondly, you can only retain a word if you are exposed to it several times. This is a very important point here, and many people don't know it. It is you need to be exposed to that word in different contexts. It will be very difficult for you to remember a word if you learn it several times but in the same context. That's the reason why sometimes you learn a word in your class and then you wrote it down in a notebook. Then you may look at it once or twice, but you still forget it. And even worse, some people try to learn vocabulary from a list. This is a very big mistake, because I'm sure that you will never be able to retain words by memorizing from a list, no matter what kind of list it is, with or without quotes attached to it. So remember, you can retain a word much more easily if you are exposed to it several times and in different contexts. Now let's move to the next part. Let me show you my technique, the free reading technique. The reason why I call it free reading because I want to distinguish it with the comprehension reading section that you usually find in the textbook. To give you a better view, let's take a look at this one. This is a typical comprehension reading section. I got this one from the site BBC Vietnamese. As you can see, this is a short paragraph. Sometimes it could be longer depending on the intention of the composer. There are words in bold and there are notes at the lower section to explain the meaning of those words. In many cases, there could be several questions for you to answer. If you were to study this reading section in your English class, the teacher would write these words onto the board, explain the meaning, instruct you on how to pronounce them, require you to answer some questions, and so on. This method is very common from the beginner to advanced levels. When using this approach, the teacher assumes that you already know all other words. The words in bold are focused upon because they are supposed to be more complicated and more difficult for the learners. Okay, now let me ask you a question. Are you sure that all those difficult and complicated words listed in the example are worth your time and effort? Recall what we talked about in the last video, the Pareto principle and the core vocabulary. You want to make sure that the words you spend time on should be the most common words. Coming back to the example, you can now see that the comprehension reading method tends to drive you to focus on the most difficult words. And my next question is, are the difficult words the most common one? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Most of the times, the shorter and simpler words are more common than the long and complicated ones. If you want to check how common a certain word is, you can use the website Word Count. Here's the web address. This is a website that provides rankings based on how common a certain word is. Even though I can't vouch for its reliability, but at least it can give us a rough idea. All you need to do is to enter the word you want to check in the Find Word box and then click the arrow button next to it. Let's give it a try with the word humanitarian from the reading section. Here we go. We got a ranking of 11,000 plus. This result shows you that the word is far less common than the 3,000 most common words. Now let's come back to the example and see how we can approach it in a more efficient way. What we're going to do is that we're going to remove all bolds from the words in the passage. Because this paragraph is quite short, I need a long one to make my point clearer. So I simply did a search on Google and found this one. This is another article talking about the same story. Now what I'm going to do is I copy and paste it into the Word document. Now if you screen these two articles, you'll find some words that appear 2, 3 or even 4 times. Let me do it for you, and let me highlight the words so that you can see them more easily. They are reporter, attempt, newspaper, film, access, deal, family. The phrase "say on the videotape" shows up twice. Again, if you want to check whether these words are really common, check it out.